Welcome to the Holistic Kids Show. My name is Zane.
My name is Imad.
And my name's Carson.
We're the Holistic Kids, here to educate us kids from the inside out. We are doing a lot. Us kids are going to school, playing sports, completing homework assignments, studying for tests, then completing all of our chores at home. Then let's add most of our parents' expectations on who need to be. Most parents want us to be doctors, lawyers, or engineers, and that's it, especially when you grow up in a classic Disney household. So many expectations can drive any kid mad. But what if we can create our own madness?
What does that mean?
Well, let's ask our next guest, Dr. Reef Karim. Dr. Reef Karim is a humanistic psychiatrist and performing artist, and he helps business leaders develop their originality and impact. He focuses on helping leaders top their mad genius by improving their performance skills, storytelling, and audience engagement. Kareem's work has been featured by prominent outlets like New York Times, Business Insider, and Forbes, and he's been interviewed by figures like Oprah and Deepak Chopra. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. You guys are I love the low voice, mid voice, high voice thing that you guys have together, and the way you support each other with facial expressions. It's great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
And it really is an honor for you to being here, for you being here.
Well, thank you. And I thought it was a good intro where you talk about how you kids are so busy, not just with school and extracurricular activities, but meeting your parents' expectations. Because let's be real, in an Indian family, that might take up 80% of your day right there.
Wow, you went from being a medical doctor to an actor to news and TV. We would love to know your story.
My story. Okay. On the day I was born, my dad made an announcement, before I was born. He's like, everyone gather around. I've decided he will be, wait for it, a doctor. And then there was this big moment. Everyone was applauding. I was supposed to be a doctor before I was born. So when you talk about parents' expectations, I don't even know if engineer even carries the weight anymore. It's almost like you can be a doctor or a lawyer or a failure. Your choice. I don't think there's even a third option. And so I came out this left-handed, I don't know if you guys are into astrology at all, but a left-handed Pisces who's super expressive and very much a performer. But I came out in this doctor family. My mom's a nurse, dad's a doctor, and I was like an alien in this family. They didn't know what to do with me. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that, not just people in the Indian community, but in lots of communities. I have friends that are Jewish that have this kind of thing. I have friends that are Italian that have Irish that have, it just seems like there's just a lot of different families where there's so much family pressure to adopt an identity that's consistent with what your parents want you to be or expect you to be, or almost like they claim ownership of their kids. It's like they don't say it, but it's almost like, I own you. I'm paying for you. I'm doing this for your school. I'm doing all this stuff for you. The least you could do is make me happy and do what I want you to do. But the reality is, I have a 4-year-old now, and I'm going out of my way to expose him to all sorts of different things to see what he resonates with, but to not push him so much so into one area or another so that it may detract, almost distract him from his inevitable passion and pursuit that he wants to eventually go into. So it's a very tricky thing. And then back to my story. So I more or less did what my parents wanted me to do. I've had crazy times. They did interventions on me. They were constantly doing, every birthday they got me a medical gift. They didn't get me Legos. Every Halloween they dressed me up like a different type of doctor until I could dress myself. It was just a full on, this kid's going to be a doctor or else. And so I did it for them, and I was as successful as I possibly could be as a doctor.
Mhm.
And then, I did research. I had an academic career. I owned a treatment center. I was a high-end doctor. And then at some point I was like, okay, I did this for you guys. And I thought this would be my end goal,
Mhm.
but it's not. And if I'm ever going to reinvent myself, I'm going to take this medical knowledge, which is great,
Mhm.
and this psychological knowledge and all this pursuit that I did, but I'm now going to do something else with it. I'm not going to do what the traditional physician does
Mhm.
or even a healthcare provider does. I'm going to do something different. So that led me to what I'm doing now.
Wow, that's really amazing how you can, like, you came out, like, your parents, they wanted you to become a doctor, but you didn't really exactly want to be a doctor. So now you're using all the information that you got, and now you're doing what you want to do.
Yeah. And it sounds easy, but
Mhm.
it's not.
Yeah.
You guys are young, but you probably still feel, I don't know. I know your mom, your mom's cool. So maybe you don't feel as much of it, but I think in the average family, I mean, there is a lot of pressure. And again, not just Indian families, like lots of families. And to be able to deal with the consequences of, all right, I'm going to go my own way. Let's see what happens. I mean, for me, my nobody talked to me in the family for like 18 months. Like they literally, you talk about being disowned, or you talk about like disappointment, you talk about black sheep in the family, you talk about all that stuff, and there's truth to it. And you deal with the consequences within the family of acceptance. And I'm a big believer in this concept of we all go through life in this battle within us, not just even within our brains, just within us, our energetic battle between attachment and authenticity. And on one side of it, there's the need for attachment, the need to be loved, the need to belong, the need to feel connected to people we want to be connected to. And we do things in order to accommodate for that. So we might become a doctor when maybe we were thinking about other things at the time, or we might move to a neighborhood because that's better for the family, or we might do things in our community and sacrifice. And sometimes that can be a good thing. But other times, maybe it's part of your journey and you have to do something else later. But there are a lot of people that choose attachment. That's all they do. Then they become 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. They're in a nursing home or they're older and they're like, why didn't I do what I really wanted to do with my life? Like, why didn't I always wanted to do this. Why didn't I do it? Like, why was I scared? What was the reason I didn't go for what I wanted to go in life? And I think if you're lucky, maybe you choose attachment and then at some point you have a wake-up call in your life. And that wake-up call tells you, I need to reinvent myself. I need to figure out what's going to give me more meaning in my life and what's going to truly fulfill me and make me more inspired and more authentically expressed and more realized. And that takes a lot of courage because you're making a bold step against the very pressures that brought you to that attachment place. And at that point, you have to be in this battle between these two things. You have to be willing to go, okay, I'm going full force into authenticity. And whatever wreckage comes out of attachment, I need to be courageous enough to do it and go for this and do it. I mean, it's not I don't view it as selfish. I think maybe some people do, but I don't view it as selfish. I view it as this is the humanistic experience that we all have, trying to become more authentic in our life, like truly, innately, soulfully authentic. And I don't see anything wrong with that. And I wish more and more people took that on, because when you are not fully authentic with who you are and you choose attachment over authenticity, you are much more prone to mental health disorders. You're much more prone to higher levels of stress, elevated frustration, elevated anger. Like you just, you get stuck in conformity and you just, there's no spark in you. You don't come alive. And it's really sad, and I wish more people were able to take those bold steps and be more courageous to follow what they really feel they should be doing.
Mhm. That is really sad, and you are so inspirational. So
So you talk a lot about mastering your own madness and how that can give you more meaningful life. Can you explain to us what this madness really means or is?
Yeah, so I'm a board certified psychiatrist. So I went into the brain and behavior. I always thought that was super interesting. Like, why do people act like that way? Why do they have these personality disorders? Why are their defenses creeping up? Why is this person crazy? Why is this person not? Why is, and I remember when I was a resident, we had a guest instructor from the outside, and the guest instructor came in and said, "You guys have a very high level responsible task. You have to determine who is a danger in society, who is aberrant in their behavior in society, and who's not." And then this guy whispers to me, like another resident, he whispers to me, basically, this guy's saying we get to decide who's crazy and who's not. And I remember thinking about that, going, how do I know that? How, I mean, sometimes it's super obvious, and somebody's like talking to themselves and they're responding to internal stimuli and they're walking the streets and they're homeless and naked and whatever. But a lot of the times when people have ideas that go against the norm of what traditionally people think, that's not crazy. That's different. And this concept of like, what's crazy? Well, innovation could be seen as crazy before the innovation happens. Like when people were talking about going on the moon, when we're talking about electric cars, when we're talking about rockets, when we're talking about AI, when we're talking about all this stuff, at one point people were like, "Oh, that's crazy. That's not going to happen. That'll never happen." But it wasn't crazy. It was progress. And that's, I think it's an important thing to make that distinction, that divergent thinking is a lot of time progress. So when I've always, between the creative in me and the psychiatrist in me, because I've been a performer for a long, long time. And the word madness has always really resonated with me, both as a psychiatrist and as this performer, this creative. And I look at the world through the lens of madness. And this is what I teach people and private clients, and when I do events and when I do keynotes, and even when I do shows, I'll talk about madness. And I feel like there's primarily three types of madness that influences us. And every one of us has an energy within us. And some people call it life force or flow or, chi, or whatever you want to call it. I call it madness because it's not all good energy. It's an energy, but it's not like this beautiful flow energy and everything's great and tap into your flow and da da da. It's an energy that we can use destructively or constructively. So we have this energy within us, and if we spend the entirety of that energy on other people's drama, on watching Netflix all day, on getting into conflict with people that we don't even care about, dating the wrong people, and I know you guys are young, but I'm just going to make it more adult problems here, and doing all sorts of things that are distracting us from who we really are and what we should be doing, then our environment, ads targeting our vulnerability, political, commercials and ads and all sorts of other things, politicians trying to get us to vote a certain way, companies that have neuroscience labs trying to get us to buy a certain way, like constant stimulation trying to get us to distract from who we really are. I call that environment madness or environmental madness. And we need to turn down the volume of that madness out there and turn up the volume of our soulful madness. Now, we also come in with what I call our mind madness. And our mind madness is our generational trauma. It's our mental health. It's our level of resilience. it's our attachment history, it's all the stuff that we're kind of pre-programmed with or conditioned to. And if that mind madness fluctuates, but that mind madness can get in the way, our defenses, our self-sabotage can get in the way of us leading the life we want, or it can be an asset to connecting more to our soulful madness. So when I talk to people about master your madness, what I'm saying is shift the energy out of environment and into soul, into soulful. And it's looking at our psychology and the way we live our life from the perspective of spiritual energy, neuroscience, and philosophy, psychology and philosophy. So it's bringing a lot more kind of spiritual, personal discovery and neuroscience to more of a self-help industry. So that's what I'm doing.
And that's amazing that you're doing it, because it's really good to have other people, instead focusing their energy on other things, to focus their energy on themselves and really like empower their dreams and stuff. So
yeah, and very few people are doing that.
mhm.
That's why, I mean, I owned a treatment center for a long time, and I would see people get better from whatever crisis they were in, but they really felt kind of uninspired or unexpressed or unrealized. And they were fine. They were making money, they had a job, they were doing their thing, and they looked good on paper, but they just really didn't feel like they were connected to anything. And they were lacking a lot of meaning and like I said, uninspired. And then I started talking to some friends, and just people in the world, and there are a lot of people that feel that way. There is a sub threshold. We look at mental health from this diagnosis thing, but underneath the diagnosis, there's just a lot of people that are not diagnosable for anything, but they're just kind of uninspired. And so I felt like I can do a lot more good in the world by speaking to those people, and speaking to them from an educational perspective and an inspirational perspective, and even an entertainment perspective, as opposed to a pathological perspective where it's all about meds and therapy and diagnosis and blah, blah, blah. I feel like if I could do a lot more good in the world in the self-improvement space. And so that's why I made that shift.
That's good. And you also talk a lot about head print. So can you please explain what your like head print means? Because I know I've heard of fingerprint or thumbprint, but what is head print?
Yeah. So if we look at a fingerprint, right? Like I used to work as a profiler, like a forensic profiler. We would always like look at what was the residue or the clues on a crime scene, or the clues and the remnants that somebody left, so that we can kind of assess who they are. And one of those things was your fingerprint. And our fingerprint is supposed to be completely unique to us. That's why we use fingerprints to open gates and open locks and get into places. And, between our eye, looking in the scanner at Clear at the airport, or fingerprinting for various things, to get past regulations and security clearance and all that stuff. It's supposed to be our unique imprint that comes from our finger. Well, I feel like we all have this unique representation of who we are, and it's a combination of our generational trauma, our attachment history, the conditioning we have, our ethnicity, our gender, our culture, our religious background, mixed with our unconscious, our traumas, our celebrations, the essence of who we are, that inner knowing. When you add all of that up, what makes each of you three a completely distinct individual, even though you might be related, even though you might have the same kind of community or culture, whatever, you are distinct individuals. And what makes you that distinction that you have, the culmination of all of that stuff, is your head print. So I always encourage people, get out of conformity thinking and start activating your head print, and start operating from the perspective of your head print.
And that's amazing. And it's just, I don't know, it always like puzzles me when you when you realize, oh, your fingerprint is the only one in the entire world and probably the only one that has ever existed, which is really cool how that works. So yeah, just another side note.
Yeah, I mean, think about how many people there are in the world. I know this might seem obvious to people, but think about how many people there are in the world. I mean, there's so many people. And yet this little thing right here can differentiate you from all of those people. I mean, it's a crazy concept. And now add energy and add history and generational history and ancestry and all sorts of other stuff, energetically as well as physiologically and emotionally and mentally to that, and you have even more of a unique imprint that you represent.
Yeah. So, in your expert advice, how can we live life with more meaning?
Okay, do you guys want that advice, the three of you, or is this to an adult? I'm just curious.
Everyone.
Okay, so that
Kids,
includes you guys too.
Yes, we are also part of the equation because we're people.
We are the audience.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with you guys. Your parents, in my opinion, in my understanding, are there to guide you, protect you, help you, expose you to new things, allow you to have the freedom to see what's out there that you might be drawn to, help you to feel more passion and more energy towards certain things. They're there to guide you. They don't own you. And in that guidance, sometimes they may look out for you and say, hey, I don't think this is a good idea. And explain to you why they don't think it's a good idea. And if you're living in the house, and I call these hard outs versus soft outs. The hard outs are, hey, while you're living with us, you can't do this thing because it's too dangerous, it's bad, it's this, it's that. And fine, it's a hard out. And as a respect factor for your parents who have a lot more experience than you do, it's a hard out. It's a no-go. But there's a lot of soft outs where adults learn from kids. And maybe you guys are bigger risk takers, or maybe the world has changed, or maybe you look at the world with a different perspective that your parents have been conditioned with, or you've been exposed to something that your parents haven't because you have your own experience. And these are the soft outs where they're like, no, you can only be a doctor, you can only be a lawyer, or some other soft out. And you're like, yeah, but I want to challenge you on that, or I want to discuss that as humans, as adults, as people in the world. And you should be able to say to them, look, here's why I want to do this other thing. And they should respect that. So when you talk about, when we talk about people finding meaning in their life, I know people that didn't find meaning until they were 80. I've met people that never found meaning in their life. And they kind of live in this resentment, and I don't want anyone to feel this, but like this regret and resentment and anger and low level frustration when they're older. I know people that find meaning in their 60s or 70s or their 50s or their 40s, 30s, 20s. I know some people that found meaning, I don't know how old you guys are, but in their teens. And they built a life based on that. So first off, you can find meaning in any age. Secondly, you have to declutter sometimes your own views and your own history, and sometimes views and history that have been planted on you, that have been projected onto you. Other people's fears, other people's feelings about life, other people's restrictions, other people's limitations that have been projected onto you, maybe because they want the best for you, but they're too limited in their thinking, and it's going to get passed on to you. And if you adopt that way of thinking, you're going to live exactly like your parents, good or bad, in a world that probably is different than the world that your parents were brought up in.
So basically how you can find your meaning is follow your dreams and passions. And what you stand for, and all these things, and your belief system. And if you use all of these to figure out what you want to do, then you can build the life that you want. And I've also heard this one quote. It goes something like, if when you never work if you do the thing that you want to do. Like, I don't know, it's probably not exact, but it's something like that, along those lines, that you don't work when you want to do what you want to do.
Yeah, you'll never work a day in your life if you kind of love what you do. I get that, but I think it's really important. It's not just follow your dreams and this and that, which you hear or you see on bumper stickers, you see all that stuff. It's so much more than that. It's having the courage to stand up to what you don't believe in. It's having the courage to take a journey into personal discovery to find out who you really are. There's a really good Ralph Waldo Emerson quote about that, but it's courage. It really is courage to figure out who you really are and what you really believe in. And you may find in this journey that you might be exactly like your family and believe it, or you might be the polar opposite in your beliefs compared to how you were raised or the closer people to you in your community. And that's okay. Either way is okay. But it's just having the courage to actually engage in personal discovery.
The world around us, our parents, the chaos of our everyday lives as kids and as maybe as adults can all influence our mind, body, and soul. So how can we master our madness and not let it make us feel stuck and overwhelmed?
Can you give us one key tip that you want all kids to leave with today, or teens, or just people on this earth to leave with today, that they should do today
To master their madness?
To master their madness.
Do an energy consumption audit. This is what I would tell everybody to do. Where we can increase our energy a bit, we can be depleted of our energy a bit, but we all have this overall life force energy. And most people waste that energy. Most people do not align that energy with something that they feel passionate about, that feels very meaningful. They do a job they don't love. They work for the weekends. They exhaust their energy on conflict or dating the wrong people or distractions or fighting within the family and not standing up for what they really believe in, feeling exhausted every single day, getting caught up in other people's drama, living for other people. There's so many. I mean, I can go on and on and on about all the pressures out there that can exhaust that energy. So an energy consumption audit essentially is even if you're a kid, take a long, hard look at where your energy is going. What's consuming your energy? And make sure that that's very aligned. Is it worth it? Is it worth engaging in that behavior, activity that's depleting your energy? Or could you shift that energy towards something that's a lot more meaningful, to develop a relationship more, spend more time with a relationship? I can't tell you the number of parents I know, because now that I have a kid, parents that don't spend time with their kids and then later on they regret it. And it's because they were spending so much of their energy on drama, on escapism, on avoidance, on a job they didn't like, on a relationship that wasn't working, on all sorts of things. And so they got so caught up in that they didn't spend beautiful time with their child. And I just think that if we can see the world through the perspective of we all have this original madness energy, and if we waste it, it's gone, it's wasted, and you live a life of conformity and very often regret.
Wow.
Yeah. So everyone do the oddity. What was it called? It was
Okay. So an energy consumption audit is
energy. Why I hear oddity?
Yeah. So essentially an audit means I'm going to go look at my energy, right?
Oh.
I'm going to look at how my energy is consumed. So you just look at your day and you're like, okay, let's say it's an adult. I go to work. I love the weekends because I'm not really like excited about work at all. So I wake up at a certain time, I do this thing, then I drive to work. It's like an hour drive. And then I go and I see my boss and I check in, and I don't really like my boss. And then I do my work, and it's not bad. It's okay. And then I get paid, and then I come home, and then I eat dinner with my partner, and that's okay. And then I see my kid who comes home from school, and I love seeing my kid. And then I work out, and then I go to sleep, and I do it all over again. And you look at, okay, where am I spending my energy? And then on weekends, maybe they party with a couple of friends of theirs, or they go to sports bars and they spend all this time and all this money and all this energy on rooting for a team or something. And what they've really wanted to do is to go open this other business and go do something else that they're not doing at all. But every night they dream of this thing that they wanted to do. So an energy consumption audit is, where is all my energy going? And where could this energy be going? And what can I do in my life to allow more energy to pursue something of meaning? What can I stop doing? I can stop doing this behavior. I can stop focusing on this thing that I've been wasting all my time on. I can maybe change my job. Maybe I can focus on this thing or that thing, or when I come home, instead of doing this, I can do this. So you start chipping away at various behaviors in your life so that you leave more room to make changes in your life that will make you more aligned with what you really want to do. That's what I mean by energy consumption.
Wow, this was amazing.
Amazing. And you are so inspirational. And I'm going to say it again, but we are so honored for you to be here with us today. It really is our pleasure.
Our pleasure. Where can people learn about you and your work?
Okay, so my website is reefkarim.com, Karim.com. The Master the Madness program is masterthemadness.com. And then I train health and wellness leaders to be able to express themselves and essentially present and perform their content, which is super important because it's life-changing and life-saving, better, so that non-experts aren't our health influencers in the world. Experts, health and wellness experts, are the influencers that are dictating what we're doing with our healthcare and providing us alternatives and providing us all, the information that we should be getting. And in order to do that, I just got frankly sick and tired of seeing so many good health and wellness experts with like zero impact or very little impact, because they simply didn't know how to perform on camera and on stages. They didn't understand the strategies of audience engagement. They didn't know how to stand out from other people who do what they do. They didn't know how to stop the scroll with disruptive messaging. They weren't really, who they are was not connected to what they do. So I decided to create an entire business training program for health and wellness experts. And it's called Mad Genius. How do you tap into the most disruptive and expressive state within you? And for anybody interested in that, they can go to madgeniusexperience.com.
Wow,
that's
make
a
sure
lot.
to check that out, because without even looking at it, I think I already know it's amazing.
Wow. Okay, I'll take that.
I already know.
Compliment. I'll take that.
So now let's recap Dr. Reef's key points. We all go through our inner battles. We are all trying to become more authentic in our lives. When we don't, we're more prone to mental health disorders, elevated anger, and you don't come alive when you are older and you look back at your life. Did you really do what you wanted to do in your life? You may need to reinvent yourself. Ask yourself, what is going to give you more meaning in your life? Take the bold step, go full force in your authentic self.
Everyone has an energy within us. Dr. Reef calls it all madness. It is an energy we can use destructively or constructively. If we spend this energy with things that pull us away from what we should do, and this would distract ourselves from who we are. That can pull us down. So we need to increase the volume of our soul madness. We need to shift the energy out of our environment and into our soul. Get out of conformity thinking. Your parents don't own you. They may guide you. They may guide you. Look for meaning in your life.
Declutter your own views and history, and those that have been projected on you. Have the courage to discover who you really are.
Yes, you should have the courage to discover who you are. And so,
take a long, hard look at what is consuming your energy to make sure it is aligned with who you want to be and add more meaning to your life.
So, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Reef. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zian Sari.
I'm Maud.
And I'm Kasam.
Follow My Family 9 on social media, Holistic Mom D, and look out for our book coming out November 2025. Oh, Maud's grabbing it. Called The Teen Health Revolution. Kids need to learn from other kids. Please download our podcast on iTunes and leave a review so other kids and families can benefit. We need to create a healthy future for all of us and the planet. Join us next week for another episode of the Holistic Kid Show, where kids aren't part of kids. Thank you, everyone.